A lot of retirees and pre-retirees feel a lot of anxiety around their finances. Believe it or not, it doesn't have to do with the balance in many cases, right? We're going to explain why this lack of confidence has crept up into so many Americans and the four pillars process to help you get past that and feel secure about your financial future. Welcome in to All Things Retirement. Ben George with Anthony Aulffo. He is the founder of the Cardinal Wealth Group, also a certified financial planner. Good to see you, Anthony. I know this one probably resonates with a lot of people because there's a lot of anxiety around finances right now, just with all the uncertainty that surrounds us day in, day out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been a few studies more recently that have been just highlighting where people who have more than enough money still feel anxious, still feel like it's not enough. And, it's a shame that we still feel that way. I don't know if it's like kind of keeping up with the Joneses or just kind of something where we're just not sure because we don't know what enough really is.
We're going to share some of that research here and then get into the four pillars of retirement confidence to make sure, you have the best kind of foundation for moving into retirement and feeling good about it. But again, a lot of the confidence around this has nothing to do with how much you have necessarily. It's about whether you can see your situation clearly. And so a couple of notes here. So FINRA found that 60% of American adults are financially anxious. About half describe themselves as financially stressed, which is pretty crazy and a little bit alarming. The Wall Street Journal said even high net worth retirees report fearing they're going to outlive their money despite having more than enough. And you probably wonder why this is the case, which we're going to get into in a minute. But I thought also there's some interesting numbers in the Employee Benefits Research Institute came out with a study too as well that has some interesting stats. I think that stood out to you as well, right?
Yeah. And when you see these numbers of like how much money do I need to be feel secure or not anxious, a lot of them have to do with the number. And I think sometimes that, like you said, shouldn't be the main driver. It doesn't really settle our nerves. But what was interesting is that it pretty much, no matter how much you had, every scenario, because they kind of broke it down in different amounts, depending on which study we're looking at, whether you had 250,000, 500,000, or north of millions of dollars, everyone just said, I just need a little bit more and I'll feel better. And it was kind of the same thing as it relates to not just savings, but also income. I kind of took some notes here as well. I'm just going to read, but 52% of pre-retirees have an estimate the monthly income that they'll need in retirement, which I think is, it's going to be hard to know if, from an emotional standpoint, if you're okay, if you haven't really, ran the numbers. At 44% haven't thought through how much they really need to withdraw annually as it relates to retirement. So, and 1 out of 3 don't know how much they need to have saved for retirement. So, some people might look at their nest egg, whether it's like keeping up with the Joneses or just haven't done the math and feel like I don't have enough when they, very well might have. It just sounds like they really haven't done the research or the work to kind of put, their finances into some type of plan to understand how it's working. So I thought that that was kind of interesting. And, that 62% of retirees living off of the portfolios have no idea how long their savings will last. So, to me, this kind of all comes back to really just doing some financial planning to help kind of put some of those fears, it's kind of abstract, and putting the math behind it so they're not necessarily flying blind.
Yeah, that's the goal here, right? And I think it's interesting because I think most people will tell you, yeah, I know that planning matters in retirement, but with these stats, it just goes to show you that a very large percentage of Americans aren't going into retirement with a plan, which is, again, what we're trying to stress here with all the conversations we have here on All Things Retirement. So the solution to this, Anthony, is this 4 pillars of retirement confidence, right? So explain this one to us.
Yeah, and before I jump into that, like 9 out of 10 people would agree that you need financial planning matters in retirement, but only 6 out of 10, 60% are going without one. So it just kind of speaks to that there's still a large segment of retirees. And I think there's 15,000 baby boomers roughly per day turning like 65, meaning like getting near like retirement. But those pillars that they found in this research is not anything that's like mind numbing. It's have a plan, have something written down, right? Most people don't have a financial plan. Having a plan that has a plan for that uncertainty is like offloading a cognitive offload, right? So what we do here is we have our one-page financial plan that really goes through all the different areas and just think about all these different things that we're thinking about in retirement. How much can I spend? How should I be invested? If I'm still working towards retirement and getting close, how should I be maximizing or saving? How much do I need to, be prepared for healthcare costs or long-term care costs, my estate planning, my legacy goals, taxes, and just there's just so much of an overload that, without a plan to have some of these things tested, written down, kind of consolidated where you can go one place to look at it all. I think it's really hard for anybody to want to really understand, am I okay? And I think that's where the financial plan comes into a place where we have, this one-page plan that highlights, all the actions that we need to take to secure and protect and pay for their financial goals. We have a section that, is like a brain dump area because it's hard to keep all these things where we can look at, why are we invested the way we're invested? What are we doing about taxes to lower it now or in the future? What are we doing from a risk management standpoint as it relates to healthcare, long-term care, your estate plan, and things of that nature? So having this financial plan that really highlights what are the actionable things that we need to do in the short term, might be like 2 or 3 things that we want to accomplish in the next year, just being focused on that, knowing that we're getting it done, giving them an overall plan that shows that they're okay, and these are the things, actionable ones that we need to do now. And then just another section or plan that really highlights what are some other things that we are keeping an eye on that we know we need to do maybe at a future date. Just having something like that, it's like a one-page plan that really just consolidates all these things into a place that we can use as a working document as we meet. So I think that is probably one of the most important things that a person nearing or going towards retirement, the sooner you do it, the better, to get your arms around how you're actually doing.
So pillar 1, having confidence, starts with having that plan that's written down, right? So it kind of takes you right into pillar 2, which, planning actually helps you know your actual numbers. And the stats we pointed out, Anthony, most people are flying blind and don't really have a firm grasp on what those numbers actually are.
That's right. So, it's clarity on these things can help reduce anxiety, right? And so you hear all these catchphrases in the news or online about how much money you need to retire, but by actually putting these numbers into your plan, seeing how they matter to you specifically, it really takes the abstract and shrinks it down to something that you can comprehend and know if you are off, how much you're off, or if you're actually doing much better than you think you're doing. Having somebody who's completely could have the same exact situation, be perfectly fine. If one person has these numbers in front of them and says, "Oh, we planned for this. We're good." It's like one less thing you have to worry about. You don't even have to worry about it. It's already been planned for. It's like an itemized line item. Let's say health insurance or my tax bill or my investment strategy. It's all been taken care of in that plan by putting those numbers from pencil to pad versus somebody who is just kind of flying blind, which could be perfectly fine, but are having anxiety because they really just don't know what the numbers are as it relates to them.
All right. So knowing your numbers, second pillar of confidence, and pillar 3, know what you're retiring to. So why is it so important to kind of have this perspective on kind of where you're headed?
Yeah, I think that this is sometimes a tough one. Even if you have a plan and you know your numbers and you know everything you should be doing, it's like having that purpose or intent, having an identity, say beyond my working years or beyond just, parenting. And now you're kind of transitioning to this new phase. It's something that the numbers aren't going to maybe solve necessarily. I don't think that you have to know like what the meaning of life is. I think not knowing is also normal and it takes time. So instead of asking, what is my purpose, which feels, enormous, I would say, asking some smart questions, because I think it's completely normal not to know exactly what your meaning is or what your purpose is or what you're transitioning to. You can ask some smart questions as to, what activities makes time disappear? Where do you find enjoyment of doing? The purpose can be sometimes more of an experimentation of trying things, joining new groups. So just having some purpose in life can really make that transition from retirement, from working to retirement a lot easier.
Yeah, and that's the goal, right? You want to make that transition as easy as possible, and having confidence helps out a lot. And that takes us to our last pillar here. If you're trying to gain this confidence that so many Americans lack, having a second set of eyes is a huge help.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to not going at it alone, having somebody that's in your corner, listening to you, being a sounding board, helping with accountability, a place where you can offload some of these financial questions and concerns to somebody who's, kind of an expert in the area that can, put effort and energy into helping with your financial well-being. Going out alone, especially on some of these major decisions, mistakes can cost you a lot of money, and also take a terrible amount of time to kind of figure out on your own. And there's so much information out there on the internet that some of these things don't apply to you that may apply to somebody else. So just having somebody in your corner that can, shrink down the menu of like what financial actions make the most sense for you to consider, to keep you organized, to have a positive influence to help you think through some of these major decisions. It's going to almost ensure that you have a much better outcome than somebody who doesn't.
All right. So those are the 4 pillars. Again, if you are in a position where you feel a little anxious about your money, even though you're in pretty good shape, but you just don't have a true idea of why that is, hopefully this kind of explains it a little bit more. But no, you're not alone too, right? Most, half Americans kind of fall into this category a little bit, which is why, again, we're spending some time on this to help you understand what it takes to get confidence. And a lot of that does begin with just sitting down and putting a plan in place, right? If you want to talk with the Cardinal Wealth Group, all that contact information is in the show description. But begin that Cardinal success journey with Anthony by taking that free assessment, kind of getting a better idea of where you stand and start evaluating things. And hey, what do I need to do moving forward to make sure I've got my eyes on the numbers, I'm on the right goals, and I know what I'm retiring to. All that's a big part of the process. And again, that confidence does not come from the size of your nest egg. It comes from that quality and the clarity of the plan that you put in place, which is what Anthony does every single day. So hopefully this will make people feel a little bit better, Anthony. I know, again, there's a lot of anxiety out there about finances and kind of the state of the economy in many cases. So this is a good kind of reassurance that, hey, with planning, you can get to where you want to go.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, well, thanks for being a part of All Things Retirement. We appreciate your support. Appreciate you watching as well. Please subscribe. We'll talk to you again right here on the show.
Information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Please consult a qualified professional before taking any action.